Brothers and sisters, the Lord is with you.
And also with you.
We continue listening to God speak to us from the Gospel in the tradition of Luke.
Glory to you, Lord.
The rulers sneered at Jesus and said, "He saved others, let him save himself, if he is the chosen one, the Christ of God." Even the soldiers jeered at him. As they approached to offer him wine, they called out, "If you are the King of the Jews, save yourself." Above him there was written an inscription that read, "This is the King of the Jews." Now one of the criminals hanging there reviled Jesus, saying, "Are you not the Christ? Save yourself and us." The other, however, rebuking him, said in reply, "Have you no fear of God? For you are subject to the same condemnation. And indeed, we have been justly condemned, for the sentence we received corresponds to our crimes, but this man has done nothing criminal." Then he said, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." He replied to him, "Amen, I say to you, you will be with me today in paradise." This is the gospel, the good news of our salvation.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
By the words of the gospel, may our sins be blotted out.
Amen.
So we gather this evening, and as always, we thank God we can be here to pray together, to hear God's word in the scriptures. So we made it through another year, another church year, the last Sunday of the liturgical year. Next week we begin the season of Advent, and Christmas is, as they say, right around the corner. But before we get to that season of preparation to celebrate once again the birth of the Messiah, we have to look at the gospel today. Normally, we don't hear anything about this particular phase of Jesus' life except during Holy Week. When we read the Passion on Palm Sunday, when we read the Passion on Good Friday. But other than that, this whole part of Jesus' life, we just don't talk about. And I wonder why. Because if Jesus didn't die on the cross, there would be no resurrection. And the thing we know about Jesus is that he was a man for others. And all we have to do is go back over the past number of weeks in the Gospel of Luke, and we hear about Zacchaeus. We hear about the tax collector in the temple, the one who wouldn't even look up when he prayed. And these are the people that Jesus associated himself with. And then he gets this condemnation. The only thing we know about Jesus is very simply the inscription on top of the cross. "This is the King of the Jews." And even that brought some words of anger from the Jewish leaders. And they went to Pilate and said, "It should be written, this man said, 'I am the King of the Jews.'" And then Pilate boldly says, "I have written what I have written." Whatever the terminology is, whatever the motive was behind Jesus being put on that cross, it was simply because he was he was a revolutionary. He was a person who did for others. He was a person who opened himself up to other people. He came into the world in a very simple way, probably a way that a lot of people say it was romanticized, that he was born in a stable, he was born among the animals. And that really gave something to our Father Francis to talk about, which we've spoken about many times, of his reenactment of the birth of Jesus. And he's constantly, even in death, he can't be left alone. Even in death, he's got to be revived. Many times in the scriptures we hear the leaders of the temple, by whose authority do you say this? What are you doing? And the answer, the reply always was, I have come to fulfill God's word. I have come to fulfill what's written in the law and the prophets. And we remember the incident where we refer to as the Transfiguration, where appearing with Jesus on the mountainside is Moses and Elijah, representing the law and the prophets. And here he is on the cross in a manner of death that, from what we know, is probably one of the most excruciating ways to die, because the person literally suffocates to death. And he's being rebuked. He's being scolded. Save yourself. And then something marvelous happens. Something marvelous, my brothers and sisters. We hear Jesus being referred to in the gospel as Rabbi, Teacher, Lord, Master. The only place where Jesus is called by name is by the criminal on the cross. Jesus, remember me. There's no other place that anybody calls Jesus by his name. And even in his agony, even with one of his last dying breaths, he promises that person, as well as promising each one of us, that today you will be with me in paradise. Let's use the example of the good thief, who some people refer to as Dismas. Let's use that example and always call on Jesus by name and ask for that guidance and ask for that presence to be with us throughout all eternity. That's God's gift to us, and our gift to God is what we have become as people. Pray for me as I pray for you. And may God bless us and keep us. May God's face shine upon us and give us peace now and always.